o'clock in the Delaware Valley. It's the Mike Missanelli Show. 1 o'clock hours brought to you by Ferguson HVAC, Lyon Conklin. Pension HVAC contractors for equipment, parts, and supplies for every heating and cooling job. Visit one of Ferguson's Cal locations. Ben Salem, King of Prussia, Pensacola, or Westchester. The man who covers the Eagles for ESPN.com. Joining us on a football Friday. He's on the Comcast Business Hotline. His name is Tim McManus. Hello, Timmy.
What's up, Mike? How you doing?
Well, Tim, I got to tell you, I got a dilemma here. And I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel about this team. And it seems like in doing Football Friday today, there seems to be a drag on the fan base with the same concept as to what this team really is. So I know you're seeing this. We're not, like, pumped up about – and here they play it in Giants, a team they should demolish, and yet they're a slight favorite. Tell me what this team is right now, please.
Well, why do you think they should demolish them?
I don't know, because I look at the Giants and I go, okay, they weren't supposed to be a good team. The Eagles were supposed to be a much better team. And here we are. We struggled against the Browns last week. Now you're going to go up there, and it's a very short line, indicating this could be a close game as well. So maybe I'm overvaluing the Eagles.
Well, I think so. And it's really easy to do that because we look at the roster on paper, and it looks, on offense, spectacular. But we know it hasn't been that way on either side of the ball. We know that the Eagles have yet to score a point in the first quarter through 5 games. We know that Jalen Hurts has turned the ball over since the start of 2023 more than any other player in the entire NFL. We know that the defense has 2 takeaways on the season, dead last in the league. The top team has 17 takeaways so far. The Green Bay Packers, the Eagles have 2. So while it's easy to get lured into the talent on this roster, the Eagles have shown us now over a period of essentially almost a full season dating back to last year what they are. And that's a team that just can't fully get its act together, has trouble separating from poor teams, gets into dogfights with teams that have less talent on their roster, and can get blown out from time to time. So I think if we're real about what we've seen, basically since the middle of last year, we can say pretty fairly that this isn't a team that you should expect to be like a double-digit favorite against anybody.
All right, let me throw this at you because your colleague Dan Orlovsky said that this is the worst prepared team in the league. Now, if I break that down, I go, well, that goes directly to a head coach, but it also might go to an offensive coordinator, and then it also might go into the quarterback problem because apparently the quarterback skill set is not in line with what Kellen Moore does best. So the whole thing revolves, it's like a circle of barbed wire, and you can't get clear of it. So what does Orlovsky mean by they're the worst prepared team in the league?
I think when you look at their slow starts, like that can be a coaching thing. Like how is it possible that if you are high octane offense that you can't get going? I mean, that seems like it would fall on the coaching staff. And then operationally, they're just not smooth at all. What I found was really interesting was talking with Lane Johnson this week, Mike, and he said that when he was asked about, the constipated line, why is this offense constipated? And he said the thing that he pointed to first was the fact that they're really late in getting the snap off. So they were ranking, and like almost dead last in the league in time before snap. The negative of that is multifaceted. I mean, number one, if you're snapping the ball with 0 on the clock, the defensive line knows exactly when to get off. So there is no element of surprise. They can pin their ears back, and they can get after the quarterback. Think about the other things, if we just kind of play this out a little bit. Like, this is a team that was supposed to implement all this motion, right? Like, we saw in the summer, like, there was motion left, motion right. Kellen Moore is going to revolutionize this baby. And now they're not doing any motion. Well, think about it. If you're getting to the line of scrimmage with no time left on the clock, how are you going to run motion? Or if Jalen Hurts isn't getting you set and he's going through too many checks, how are you going to start implementing your motion? So it's like operationally, it's just not buttoned up right now. And I think that you could say some of it's okay. It's like some new coaches, new scheme, etc. But at what point do you stop saying those excuses and you're like, come on, man, like, this is a professional franchise. You got to get your act together.
Well, whose fault is that then? Like, who does that fall on primarily? We're 5 games in now, and they're still having those kind of problems?
Yeah, so I followed up on that in the locker room, and 3 things came back to me. One, it falls on the coaching staff to get the play in quicker. Two, the players have to be more urgent to the line of scrimmage. And three, Jalen Hurts has to be better. And by that I mean it's good to a certain extent that you're analyzing the defense, you're making the appropriate checks, but at some point it comes to a point where you're allowing the defense to kind of dictate the circumstances, where you have to just do an initial read and then just go. So the answer, I wish it was a little bit simpler. Like, you can point to just one guy, but it's really like, it falls on the coaches, it falls on the quarterback, and it falls on the players. And they apparently have been, efforting to get this thing right and practice a big point of emphasis, but to this point hasn't translated.
All right, let me. We'll get to Bill in a second. I know Bill has a question for you, but I want to get to this. Is the quarterback this offensive coordinator has? It might not be the best quarterback for his system, but since this transition happened with this coordinator way back in the spring, who's at fault here? The coordinator who is not utilizing what the quarterback can do, or the quarterback who's not adapting to what the offensive coordinator would like to do?
I think one of the concerns coming into this whole setup was that it was basically you're taking a different offensive coordinator, you're putting him in the middle of a system that had already existed, and you're trying to meld all the pieces together. One of the problems last year with Brian Johnson, as an example, was he basically wasn't running his own offense, and he got stuck in the middle and ultimately sort of lost his identity. When it comes to Moore, he's sort of in the same circumstance. Now, the Eagles have given him certainly more responsibility and authority over the operation, but at the end of the day, like your head coach, which is your boss, it's still like the offensive guy, and is going to have, some sway over it. And the quarterback's going to have his own opinions on the way he thinks it should go. And so you got to meld it all together. And Mike, it takes time to meld it all together.
That's Bill's point. This is good for playing right into Bill's hands.
Yeah. But so here's where the flawed thinking comes in. It was always going to take time for it to come together, because when you switch coordinators, like I've seen it time and time again, sometimes it can take a full year until the operation looks clean, offensive or defensive side of the ball. Here's the issue. The Eagles had to get off to a fast start because they're coming off of a collapse, and the world was going to start crashing down on them if they got off to a bumpy start. Well, guess what happened? The operation's been a mess. They got off to a slower start than their talent suggests, and the world in Philadelphia is crashing around on, and it's even happening nationally now. You understand? Like, it may have just been a flawed premise.
No, you're right. You're right about it. So let's go to Bill, because Bill has been tooting his horn. It's taking time. Go ahead, Bill.
Yes, I'm with you, Tim. It is going to take some time, and my concern is that fans are growing impatient, and I don't know if you're going to see that offense come into firing on all cylinders this week, because now you have no Jordan Mailata at left tackle, no Dallas Goedert, and you're going up against the Giants defense that's not bad. So what do you expect to see from the offense this week?
Right. Well, so number one, the Jordan Mailata thing is significant because Brian Burns has been lining up a decent amount over that side of the ball, and Fred Johnson's going to be your left tackle. You can't have Brian Burns wreck this game. You just can't. So they're going to have to find ways, like if Johnson, you have to indicate early, if Johnson is not holding his own, get the guys some help pretty quickly. Clearly, one of the ways to alleviate that issue is to run the football, and you got to feature Saquon Barkley in this game, don't you? You absolutely that given those circumstances, how talented he is, what it ultimately means to him, no matter what he says during the course of the week, that he's going to have extra lightning in his feet. You got to give him the ball. And so I think they will. But yeah, to your point, like this Giants defense is pretty good. They're actually number one in sacks in the NFL. So it's not a joke of a defense by any stretch of the imagination. They're a little bit vulnerable in the back end. I think that you can take advantage in certain spots, use your wide receivers to exploit some matchups, but make it Barkley focused. That should alleviate a number of problems.
Yeah, they do give up almost 5 yards to running back, so that would be the plan. And so I hope they stick. There's a lot of people under pressure. They don't give the ball to Barkley enough. Well, he carried 18 times last week, and they really didn't do anything with it. So we'll see what happens this week. All right, so Timmy, are you do you like the Eagles to win this game? The line would indicate that maybe they're, it's a short line.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Eagles in a close one. I do feel like this defense is almost due. Like if you look at Quinion Mitchell, just focus on him and the amount of interceptions that he should have. He's not getting collided into by C.J. Gardner-Johnson, or he can just hold on when he's closing in. Like he's due to get a bunch of picks in bunches. That those two takeaways, that's not going to last all season. And I feel like this is an opportunity against Daniel Jones, who can be giving in spots. They are also without their left tackle, and so you would think you'd be able to get some blindside pressure going on there. I'm not expecting the offense to suddenly be resurgent and be everything we thought it could be. Not quite yet, but I do feel like the defense can take advantage of this New York team. So, yeah, like a 3-point win, maybe, Mike, I think would probably be right around where I'm looking.
Yeah, I hear you. I think it's going to be close, too. I think it's going to be won by a field goal. So we'll see what happens. Bill, anything else now?
Yeah, one last thing, because you didn't mention, you talked about Brian Burns. That Dexter Lawrence at D tackle, this may be the biggest test for Cam Jurgens as the new center here.
He might be the best defensive player in the NFL right now, so shame on me for not highlighting that. But it's hard to think. You think Fred Johnson's versus Brian Burns, but yes, I mean, you're talking about Cam Jurgens and the interior going up against a nose tackle that has 7 sacks. Ridiculous, man. So he has been, and he has the full attention of the entire locker room. Like as soon as you start talking about the Giants, they're like Dexter Lawrence. And so, yes, I mean, that's 2 trouble matchups that they're going to have to navigate in order to get this win.
All right. It's a double Johnson this weekend.
There you go.
Both ends. Timmy, always a pleasure, man. Thank you, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. See you, boys.
Tim McManus.